Welcome to the Backpage Lead vidcast, and we are talking about the year in review, Ash, and it's been a hell of a year for sport. Inspirational and uplifting events on one hand and pretty sordid and tawdry affairs on the other. I'm with Ashley Browne, I'm Charlie Haqppell. When we look back on the year in review, Ash, that's a bit of a tautology mind you, there was a rich theme to mind, wasn't there?
There was, you said it beautifully. There was some fantastic stuff on the field. We're outside the MCG where we had not one but two AFL Grand Finals this year. The first Grand Final being the St Kilda Collingwood draw was a wonderful, wonderful sporting event, and then we all came back 7 days later to watch Collingwood play a fantastic second half to game really to beat St Kilda, and that was probably the high point of sport for the year on the field, just to have the biggest game of the year being so filled with drama.
That first game was a cracker, wasn't it? But not for a sort of wonky bounce of the ball when Stephen Milne was up at the city end near the point posts. St Kilda would have won.
That's right, and Collingwood started well. St Kilda came back beautifully towards the end. Collingwood fought hard at the end to keep it to a draw. It was just the theatre, and then 100,000 people standing in stunned silence at the final siren for a few seconds before then all unanimously standing up to applaud. Yep. Was one of the great things I've seen in sport. Yeah,
having watched Brendan Goddard take that mark in the goal.
Yeah, that's right. It was just a fantastic day, and Collingwood played a brilliant game the second week and deserved premiers. And you love them or hate them, but a Collingwood premiership is good for football.
Okay, I'll come back to you just in a sec for your other highlights, but as curmudgeon-in-chief, I'd like to bring you a couple of lowlights. Obviously, the Melbourne Storm salary cap drama was one of the great stories, one of the big stories of the year. In fact, I'm not sure, Ash, there's been many bigger stories in Australian sport since, we've had Bodyline, obviously, we've had Kathy Freeman at the Sydney Olympics. This was a team that had taken all before it in the previous 5 or 6 years, was the dominant team in the competition, found to have rorted the salary cap, and was stripped of 2 premierships, minor premierships, wasn't allowed to play for premiership points. It was an absolute bombshell, wasn't it?
Yeah, systematic cheating. There have been suspicions for a while. It brings the whole Sydney-Melbourne thing into play, the role of News Limited in running a sporting organisation. So many angles could come at this story. I can't recall a bigger story. Perhaps the biggest since the breaking the World Series cricket that I can remember back in 1977, but it shook Australian sport to the foundation. It may prove to be, in the long term, a dagger in the heart of rugby league as well as other events going forward as well. So, unbelievably huge story.
Also, look, we tend to forget because it was so long ago, but the Tiger Woods drama played out in February when he gave that very wooden apology to his friends and family in almost a sort of funereal atmosphere at a kind of a mausoleum with heavy drapes. It was the most appallingly scripted thing I think I've seen for a long time. The heavy hand of IMG at play.
Yeah, didn't come out, not a great moment of media management. Tiger Woods didn't win a tournament all year, which shook golf to itself. I mean, he's been so dominant over the sport. It was a major story.
He actually came back in the Masters and finished 4th, and everyone thought, "You beauty, he's back in the game," but it proved to be a mirage. He, as you say, has gone through the year without a win, and has actually not won since he was in this very city in late 2009. Ash, while on the subject of sordid and tawdry, there's been a few developments with sportsmen and social media, hasn't there, as well this year?
Yeah, that's right. It's been a grubby year for social media and sport. It's been even playing out now with Nick Rewald, Nick Del Santo and the St Kilda, and Sam Gilbert and Zach Dawson, the St Kilda boys. It's been a very sordid affair. Joel Monahan from the Canberra Raiders.
How could we forget Joel?
Well, you can't forget Joel. The image of that, not very good as well. Didn't put him or his sport in a particularly good light. He's now been pretty much banished from the country, now playing for the Warrington Wolves over in Great Britain, and he won his club best and fairest about 3 years ago for the Raiders, so a very good player, a talent gone for a very foolish act.
And this trend, if you like, is only going to keep going, isn't it? Like, clubs are going to have to school their players so closely about the perils of appearing on social media.
Yeah, that's right. You know, there's certain guidelines they should be following, but they need to be very, very careful. It's amazing how quickly people can find out what's on your Facebook and your Twitter profile, so be careful, and they're just got to be much smarter about it.
Let's talk the round ball code, the world game. 2 sort of World Cup disasters really for Australia. The first is when they made their World Cup appearance in South Africa this year and played Germany. Pim Verbeek I'm not quite sure what his tactics were. I'm not sure they've yet to be fully explained, but we lost 4-0 to Germany, and that really put paid to our World Cup campaign then and there in 90 minutes.
Incredibly deflating, and it shows how the Socceroos have become such a key part of the sporting psyche of the nation, how depressed we all were, the waking up at 4:30 to watch that debacle in Germany, in South Africa. It was all over. They fought back towards the end, but pretty much the die was cast after that first match, and then we had the double barrel blow with the World Cup announcement in early December, where for $45 million we got one vote and were eliminated in the first round of the bidding for the 2022 World Cup.
Yeah, look, it hasn't been kind to us this year, the World Game, and even the World Cup final itself, with Spain winning, of course, 1-0 against the Netherlands. Two teams known for their attractive football played an absolute stinker. It was an ill-tempered affair, and the poor old British ref handing out yellow cards like confetti. So I guess that's another low light. What else inspired you, Ash? What would you regard as a highlight for you?
Well, they're still playing tennis apparently over Wimbledon. John Isner and Mahut, they're still going around with that remarkable final set at Wimbledon. So that was probably the highlight of the year for tennis. The racing purists were saying that Americane's win in the Melbourne Cup was one for the ages. Charlie, that's another couple that spring to mind.
Yeah. No, Mahut, I would say, was a sort of personal favourite, losing to Isner. 70-68, I think. I think they finished, haven't they?
Yeah, they're going. They're playing through the snow now. The other thing should be the Super Bowl, New Orleans, which was decimated by Hurricane Katrina 5 years ago. The New Orleans Saints winning the Super Bowl was a really good feel-good story for the people of that downtrodden city. It was a great game. Drew Brees himself, a great story, as our cameraman stuff flies all over the place. That was a fantastic story too.
Look, we tend to think the sort of sporting world begins and ends here and revolves totally around Australia, but Canada beating the USA in the Winter Olympics gold medal in ice hockey was an event that stopped the nation. I think Sidney Crosby scored the goal sort of with a minute left to the end of overtime. I'm not sure if you watched that, Ash, but that was an amazing story, and I think the nation of, Sidney Crosby will not need to buy a Moosehead beer for the rest of his life.
No, he's a king of Canada, king of Pittsburgh, and king of Canada. And also the Winter Olympics, 2 Australian gold medals as well, Tora Bright and Lydia Lasilia as well, both in fine fashion. We shouldn't forget that. We tend to forget this actually was an Olympic year.
Fantastic. Look, thanks again. And Ash, any farewell salutations?
No, the salutations. Be well over the break, and we'll talk to you again on Backpage Lead in 2011.
Thank you. Thank you.